Every time you peel a garlic clove, trim a green onion, or scoop seeds out of a pepper, you throw away a living plant. Not a vegetable scrap. A living organism that wants to grow back. For most of human history, wasting a root or a seed was unthinkable. Your grandparents knew that. Their grandparents built entire food systems around it. Somewhere between the supermarket and the plastic produce bag, that knowledge got quietly buried, not because it stopped working, but because it stopped being profitable for someone else. This video gives it back. Number 17 on this list has been regrowing in kitchens across Asia for over 3,000 years, and most Americans throw it directly into the trash without a second thought. Stay until number 20. What you learn about that one scrap will permanently change how you see your kitchen counter. If you believe that what your grandparents knew is worth protecting, hit subscribe. Not for the algorithm, for the people who choose to remember what the world forgot. Here are 20 kitchen scraps that grow into infinite free food, ranked from remarkable to absolutely unforgettable. Number 1. Green onions, scallions. Ancient Egyptians were regrowing alliums from cut roots as early as 3200 BC. They called the regrown shoots iaret, meaning what returns. Scallions were standard in both peasant kitchens and royal households. No part was wasted. When commercial agriculture standardized produce, the idea of regrowing food from scraps became associated with poverty. By the 1960s, the message was clear: real Americans buy fresh. The older practice didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because the supermarket made it embarrassing. Research confirms that green onions contain quercetin and sulfur compounds associated with anti-inflammatory activity and blood sugar regulation. Studies published in Food Chemistry document antimicrobial properties significant enough to inhibit several bacterial strains in lab settings. Place the white root and roughly an inch in a glass of water on a windowsill. Within 5 to 7 days, full-length shoots grow back completely. You can harvest and regrow the same root 3 to 4 times before replanting in soil for a permanent supply. No significant danger with green onions themselves. However, any regrowth container should be rinsed every 2 days. Standing water left unchanged can develop bacterial growth that transfers to the plant. Your grandmother had a name for this. She kept a glass on her kitchen windowsill. We forgot to ask her why. Number 2. Romaine lettuce. Egyptian farmers along the Nile Delta were cultivating regrowth lettuce as far back as 4500 BCE. They called it abu and documented deliberate stump regrowing in agricultural records preserved in tomb paintings at Luxor. Lettuce became a supermarket commodity in the United States after World War II, when refrigerated transport made it cheap and available year-round. The practice of keeping a stump alive in water was replaced entirely by a weekly trip to the produce aisle. Studies show romaine contains significant concentrations of vitamin K, beta-carotene, and lutein nutrients associated with eye health and cardiovascular support. Research confirms the outer leaves carry the highest antioxidant density, meaning regrown leaves are compositionally comparable to store-bought. Cut romaine leaves leaving 2 to 3 inches above the base. Place the stump in a shallow bowl with about an inch of water. Change the water daily. Within a week, fresh inner leaves emerge from the center. Transfer to soil once roots appear for continuous harvest. We spent decades buying plastic-wrapped lettuce shipped 1,000 miles when a bowl of water on the counter would have done the same job for free. Number 3. Garlic. Sumerian texts from around 2600 BCE describe garlic, which they called azu, as both food and medicine. It was so valued in ancient Egypt that workers building the pyramids were reportedly paid partly in garlic rations. When supply ran short, work stopped. When pharmaceutical antibiotics became standard after World War II, garlic's medicinal reputation was gradually dismissed as folk remedy. The same compounds that made it valuable for 4,000 years were reframed as superstition. The regrowing tradition collapsed alongside the medicinal one. Allicin, the sulfur compound released when garlic is crushed, has documented antimicrobial, antifungal, and antiviral properties confirmed in peer-reviewed studies. Research published in the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy confirmed allicin's ability to inhibit multiple drug-resistant bacterial strains. Plant an individual garlic clove pointy, end up in a pot of well-draining soil about an inch deep. Within days, green shoots emerge. Harvest the scapes when they curl and use them in cooking. The full bulb is ready in approximately 8 months. 1 head of garlic becomes infinite heads. Garlic interacts significantly with blood-thinning medications, including warfarin and aspirin therapy. Research suggests high supplemental doses may increase bleeding risk. Anyone on anticoagulants should consult a healthcare provider before therapeutic garlic use. This plant outlived every empire that discovered it: Egyptian, Roman, Chinese, Ottoman, and it's sitting in your produce drawer right now. Number 4. Celery. The ancient Greeks used wild celery, which they called selenon in funeral rites, as early as 850 BCE, believing it had properties connected to both death and healing. Cultivated celery for eating was developed later by Italian farmers in the Po Valley around the 16th century, who selectively bred out the bitterness. By the mid-20th century, celery had been reduced entirely to a crunchy filler vegetable. Its long history as a medicinal plant used by Greek physicians for kidney complaints and nervous conditions was never mentioned on the bag. Studies show celery contains phthalides, compounds associated with blood pressure reduction. Research also documents apigenin, a flavonoid with documented anti-inflammatory and potential neuroprotective effects, currently being studied for anxiety-related applications. Cut celery stalks, leaving about 2 inches of the base intact. Place the base in a shallow bowl with half an inch of water, cut side up. Keep it in a sunny window. Within a week, small pale green leaves appear from the center. Transfer to soil once growth is stable for a full plant. Most Americans eat the celery and throw away the part that keeps growing back. That's been happening for about 60 years now. Number 5. Ginger root. Sanskrit texts from approximately 2000 BC document ginger called Sringavara, meaning horn root, as a core medicinal and culinary ingredient in Ayurvedic practice. It was one of the first spices to reach Europe from South Asia via ancient trade routes, and it was worth its weight in silver during the Roman Empire. As ginger became a cheap grocery item, its standing as a serious medicinal plant eroded. The same root Roman merchants once paid fortunes for now sits in a produce bin for $1. Gingerols and shogales, the bioactive compounds in ginger, have extensively documented anti-nausea, anti-inflammatory, and digestive properties. Studies published in multiple journals confirm effectiveness for nausea comparable to pharmaceutical antiemetics in certain populations, without the sedation side effects. Take a ginger root with visible growth nodes, small knobby bumps, and soak it overnight in water. Plant horizontally just below the surface in rich potting soil. Keep warm and moist. Shoots emerge within 2 to 3 weeks. Harvest outer roots while leaving inner growth to continue expanding indefinitely. Ginger has documented interactions with anticoagulant medications. Research suggests it may enhance the blood-thinning effects of warfarin. High doses may also lower blood sugar, which requires monitoring for anyone managing diabetes with medication. We spent billions developing synthetic anti-nausea compounds decades after this root had already been solving the same problem for 4,000 years. Number 6. Lemongrass. In Southeast Asia, lemongrass, called sera in ancient Khmer and Takrai in Thai, has been cultivated and regrown from stalks for at least 2,000 years. Khmer agricultural records from the Angkor period document its dual use as a cooking ingredient and fever-breaking medicinal infusion. American agricultural import culture turned lemongrass into an exotic specialty item. When it arrived in U.S. grocery stores, it came without its history, just an ingredient for Thai recipes. The practice of growing it perpetually from the stalk never crossed the ocean with it. Research confirms lemongrass contains citral, a compound with documented antimicrobial and antifungal properties. Studies also show anxiolytic effects in animal models, and one study published in Phytomedicine documented significant reductions in anxiety measures in human participants using lemongrass aromatherapy. Place a fresh lemongrass stalk, the kind sold in grocery stores, in a glass of water, submerging the base 2 inches. Roots emerge within 1 to 2 weeks. Plant in a large pot in full sun. One stalk becomes a dense clump that can be harvested indefinitely. Lemongrass essential oil is highly concentrated and can cause skin irritation or chemical burns if applied undiluted. The culinary stalk is safe, but DIY oil preparations require significant dilution. Pregnant women should avoid therapeutic doses, as traditional use records it as a uterine stimulant. Something that grows wild across 3 continents became a specialty hashtag in America at about $4 a stalk. Someone profited from that arrangement. It wasn't you. Number 7. Leeks. Ancient Egyptians documented leeks kopcha in hieroglyphic records as far back as 2100 BC. They were found in the tombs of pharaohs, preserved as food offerings for the afterlife. Roman Emperor Nero allegedly ate leek soup daily to protect his singing voice, earning him the nickname Porphygus, leek eater. Leeks survived in European peasant culture for centuries precisely because they regrow readily from the base. Post-war American convenience culture replaced this practice with grocery runs. By 1980, most American cooks didn't know leeks could regrow at all. Research documents leeks contain camphorol, a flavonoid associated with reduced risk of chronic disease in population studies. Studies also confirm prebiotic fiber that supports beneficial gut bacteria, a connection ancient healers understood intuitively long before germ theory existed. Cut leeks leaving 2 to 3 inches of the white base, with roots attached. Plant directly in moist soil about an inch deep. New green shoots emerge within a week. The regrown leeks are fully edible and indistinguishable from store-bought within 3 to 4 weeks. Nero ate these to protect his voice. You've been throwing away the part that grows back. Number 8. Pineapple crown. Indigenous peoples of the Amazon basin, including the Tupi of what is now Brazil, had been propagating pineapple from the crown for at least 1,500 years before European contact. They called it nanas, meaning excellent fruit, and developed regrowth techniques that Spanish colonizers documented with astonishment in the 16th century. When Dole and Del Monte industrialized pineapple cultivation in Hawaii in the early 20th century, the plant was repositioned as a manufactured product. The fact that every pineapple crown is a fully viable propagating plant was never something the industry had interest in communicating. Studies confirm bromelain, the enzyme compound in pineapple, has documented anti-inflammatory, proteolytic, and potential wound-healing properties. Research published in Biotechnology Research International documents bromelain's effectiveness as a natural digestive aid and anti-inflammatory agent. Twist the crown off a fresh pineapple and remove the lower leaves to expose about an inch of bare stem. Allow it to dry for 2 days to prevent rot. Plant in well-draining soil in a large container in full sun. Roots establish within 2 months. A full fruit typically takes 18 to 24 months, but one plant can produce for years. Bromelain interacts with blood-thinning medications and can increase the effect of certain antibiotics. Unripe pineapple contains significantly higher bromelain concentrations and can cause severe digestive distress and uterine contractions in pregnant women. Every pineapple in every grocery store in America is a living plant waiting to grow. Most of them go straight to the compost. Number 9. Sweet potato slips. Archaeological evidence from a Peruvian Andes documents sweet potato cultivation called Kulmar in Quechua dating back to approximately 8000 BCE. The Quechua developed an entire propagation system based on slip growing that produced continuous crops across multi-generational family farms without ever buying new seed. The USDA's push for certified seed stock in the 20th century discouraged home propagation. By the 1970s, most American gardeners had been taught directly or indirectly that growing from slips was unreliable. It wasn't. It was just inconvenient for the commercial seed industry. Research confirms sweet potatoes contain beta-carotene at concentrations among the highest of any vegetable, with documented antioxidant activity. Studies also show significant prebiotic fiber and a glycemic impact lower than white potatoes when prepared without added sugars, which has implications for blood sugar management research. Suspend a sweet potato halfway in water using toothpicks, submerging the bottom half. Within 2 weeks, shoots called slips emerge from the skin. Once slips reach 4 to 6 inches, twist them off and plant directly in warm garden soil. Each slip becomes a full plant that produces a new harvest of tubers. 8,000 years of continuous food production from one technique. We almost let it disappear in a single generation. Number 10. Avocado pit. The Aztec civilization of Mesoamerica, who called the avocado tree a huacal, cultivated and propagated these trees for at least 5,000 years. Aztec physicians documented avocado leaf, bark, and fruit in medicinal codices as treatments for skin conditions, digestive complaints, and menstrual regulation. The entire plant was considered medicinal, not just the fruit. American avocado culture arrived largely through California commercial cultivation in the early 20th century, stripped of its medicinal history, repositioned purely as a luxury food item. The propagation knowledge survived only in pockets of Mexican and Central American heritage communities. Research confirms avocado contains oleic acid, the same monounsaturated fat associated with cardiovascular benefits in the Mediterranean diet. Studies also document avocatin B, a compound currently under investigation in cancer research at the University of Guelph, with peer-reviewed findings in Cancer Research. Remove the pit and clean it thoroughly. Insert 3 toothpicks around the middle to suspend it half submerged in a glass of water. Place in a warm, indirect light location. A crack appears in 4 to 6 weeks. A root and shoot follow within 8 weeks. Plant in rich soil once the stem reaches 6 inches. Avocado leaves and bark contain persin, a compound toxic to most pets including dogs, cats, birds, and livestock. The fruit itself is safe for humans, but the plant as a whole should be kept away from animals. The Aztecs documented this plant's properties in codices that Spanish conquistadors burned. We're only now rediscovering what those pages contained. Number 11. Fennel bulb base. Ancient Greeks called fennel marathron and connected it deeply to knowledge and strength. According to Greek mythology, Prometheus carried fire to humanity hidden inside a fennel stalk. Greek soldiers at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE fought on a field covered in wild fennel, giving the battle its name. Roman legions chewed fennel seeds before combat for endurance. Fennel arrived in American kitchens as a niche Italian grocery hashtag and never developed wide cultural roots. Its deep medicinal and culinary history in Mediterranean and Middle Eastern cultures simply didn't travel. Most Americans today aren't sure whether to eat the bulb, the fronds, or the seeds, which means all three usually get discarded. Studies confirm fennel contains anethol, a compound with documented antimicrobial, antispasmodic, and estrogen-modulating properties. Research also documents significant digestive benefits, particularly for gas, bloating, and infantile colic properties that traditional European herbalism recorded for centuries before scientific confirmation. Cut the fennel bulb, leaving about an inch of the base. Place in a shallow bowl of water. Feathery fronds emerge from the center within a week. Plant in a large pot or directly in the garden in full sun. Fennel is a perennial in USDA zones 5 through 10, meaning once established, it returns every year without replanting. Fennel has documented estrogen-modulating properties that could theoretically interfere with hormone-sensitive conditions. Research suggests high doses significantly beyond culinary use may be contraindicated for individuals with hormone-sensitive cancers. Culinary amounts pose no documented risk. The Greeks named a famous battlefield after this plant. We put it in grocery stores and stopped teaching people how to use it. Number 12. Beet tops. Romans were the first to fully cultivate beets as a root vegetable, though ancient Greeks used only the leaves. Roman agronomist Columella, writing in 60 CE, described replanting beet crowns to produce perpetual leaf crops. The technique was standard across Mediterranean household gardens for centuries. Industrial food culture separated the beet into a product, the root, canned and jarred, and a waste product, the tops, discarded. By the mid-20th century, most Americans who bought beets had never seen the green leaves at all. The grocery industry removed them before the root ever reached the store. Research confirms beet greens carry exceptional nutritional density, among the highest in vitamins K and A of any vegetable. Studies also document betaine content in beetroots, which research associates with liver protection and reduced homocysteine levels, a cardiovascular risk marker. Cut beet greens, leaving about an inch of stem above the crown. Place the crown flat side down in shallow water. New leaves emerge from the top within a week. These greens are edible, slightly earthy, similar to Swiss chard, and can be harvested repeatedly by snipping the outer leaves. Romans kept this going in their kitchen gardens for 600 years. The modern grocery store stripped out the most nutritious part before you ever saw it. Number 13. Cilantro stems. Cilantro seeds called coriander were found in the tomb of Tutankhamun, placed there around 1323 BC as a food offering. Ancient Sanskrit texts from 1500 BC document it as danyaka, a digestive and preservative herb. Hippocrates listed it in his Pharmacopoeia around 400 BC. This plant spans more ancient civilizations than almost any other on this list. American herb culture reduced cilantro to a garnish in Mexican and Asian food, a finishing herb you buy in a plastic clamshell and discard after 3 days. The idea of keeping it alive indefinitely was never introduced. Supermarket packaging specifically engineered fragility into how we think about fresh herbs. Research confirms cilantro contains dodecanol, a natural compound documented to have antibacterial effectiveness against salmonella in laboratory studies, a finding that generated serious research interest in food safety applications. Studies also document heavy metal chelating properties, with ongoing research into cilantro's ability to bind certain metals in the digestive tract. Place cilantro stems with any remaining root attached in a jar of water on a bright windowsill. Refresh the water every 2 days. Roots establish within 1 to 2 weeks. Once roots reach 2 inches, plant in potting soil. The plant will bolt to seed and heat harvest those seeds as coriander, and you have the next generation of plants already prepared. Tutankhamun took this to the afterlife. You took it to the garbage after Tuesday's tacos. Number 14. Potatoes with eyes. The Quechua-speaking peoples of the Peruvian Andes first cultivated potatoes papa approximately 10,000 years ago in the Titicaca Basin at 12,000 feet elevation. They developed hundreds of distinct varieties and a preservation technique called chuno freeze-dried potato that could last decades. The Inca Empire was powered nutritionally by potato cultivation on a scale modern agriculture still studies. When potatoes arrived in Europe in the 16th century, they were initially rejected as food fit only for animals. By the time they were accepted, their Andean propagation culture was stripped away. In 20th century America, the potato became a commodity crop and sprouting potatoes were reclassified as a food safety concern rather than what they actually are, a potato trying to plant itself. Research confirms potato skins contain significant concentrations of potassium, vitamin C, and B6. Studies document the compound solanine, a glycoalkaloid concentrated in green areas and eyes as the reason for food safety concerns, but also note that controlled sprouting for planting purposes involves concentrations well below toxic thresholds. Any potato with eyes, the knobby growth points, can be planted. Cut the potato so that each section contains at least one eye. Allow the cut surfaces to dry and callus for 24 hours. Plant 4 inches deep in loose, well-draining soil. One grocery store potato routinely yields 5 to 10 new potatoes at harvest. Green potatoes contain elevated solanine levels that can cause nausea, vomiting, and in high concentrations, neurological symptoms. Green or heavily sprouted potatoes should not be eaten, but they are exactly the ones most suitable for planting. Do not consume them, grow them. If you've made it this far, you're starting to notice something. These aren't coincidences. The knowledge to grow food from scraps didn't fade because people stopped caring. It faded because it made buying food seem optional, and that was never good for business. Every hashtag on this list was known, documented, practiced for generations, and then quietly, deliberately buried under the weight of convenience culture. Tell me in the comments which scraps on this list shocked you the most and why. I read every single one. This kind of knowledge only survives if we keep passing it along. Your comment might be the thing that sends someone else down this path. Let's keep going. Number 15. Turmeric rhizome. Sanskrit texts from the Vedic period approximately 1500 BC document turmeric as haridra, used as a dye, food preservative, and wound treatment. Ayurvedic tradition codified its medicinal applications in texts dating back 4,000 years. The ancient spice trade moved turmeric from South Asia to China, the Middle East, and East Africa long before European explorers reached the Indian Ocean. Turmeric arrived in American culture, mostly as a yellow powder, in curry blends decontextualized and depotentiated. Its medicinal tradition was left entirely in its country of origin. Western pharmaceutical research only began taking it seriously in the 1990s, roughly 3,500 years after Ayurvedic practitioners had already mapped its applications in detail. Curcumin, turmeric's primary bioactive compound, is one of the most studied plant compounds in modern medicine. Research confirms anti-inflammatory effects comparable in some studies to pharmaceutical NSAIDs, documented antioxidant activity, and ongoing clinical trials examining applications in neurodegenerative disease research, including a notable 2018 UCLA study on cognitive function. Plant a fresh turmeric rhizome purchased from a grocery store or Asian market just below the surface of rich, moist soil in a warm location. Shoots emerge within 3 to 4 weeks. The plant produces new rhizomes underground continuously. Harvest after leaves yellow in fall. Replant a portion of the new rhizomes to continue the cycle indefinitely. Curcumin has documented interactions with blood-thinning medications and may enhance the effect of diabetes medications, causing blood sugar to drop lower than intended. Research also indicates it may inhibit iron absorption when consumed in high doses alongside iron-rich foods. A compound that took Western medicine 3,500 years to notice was growing in household gardens across South Asia the entire time. That delay cost something. Number 16. Basil stems. Ancient Hindu texts from approximately 3000 BC describe holy basil tulsi or Ocimum tenuiflorum as the most sacred plant in the Vedic tradition, present in every household as both a spiritual offering and a medicinal plant. Culinary sweet basil, Ocimum basilicum, was cultivated in Egypt and Greece by at least 1000 BCE. Greek physicians used it to treat anxiety and digestive complaints. Supermarket basil is engineered to die. The plants sold in grocery stores are deliberately grown in dense clusters without adequate root development so that they remain commercially dependent. Most American households buy, use, and discard basil on a 2-week cycle forever. Almost no one knows that a single stem in water becomes a permanent plant. Research confirms basil contains eugenol, the same compound found in cloves, with documented antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory effects. Studies show linalool, another basil compound, has documented stress-reducing properties in inhalation studies. Holy basil specifically has been studied extensively for adaptogenic effects on cortisol. Cut a basil stem just below a leaf node, remove lower leaves, and place in a glass of water in bright, indirect light. Roots emerge within 7 to 10 days. Once roots reach an inch, plant in well-draining soil. One grocery store basil plant, which typically costs $3 and dies within weeks, becomes a permanent perennial in warm climates. The grocery store sells you a plant designed to die quickly and make you come back. This single stem breaks that arrangement permanently. Number 17. Water chestnuts. Water chestnuts, called biqi in classical Chinese texts, have been cultivated in China since at least 1000 BCE. They appear in Tang Dynasty agricultural records from 618 CE as both a staple food for peasant communities and a medicinal ingredient used to reduce fever and treat urinary conditions. For 3,000 years, Asian cooks routinely regrew them from corm, offsets the small bulb-like structures at the base of each plant. In the United States, water chestnuts exist almost exclusively as a canned ingredient in Chinese-American takeout. The fresh form, sold occasionally in Asian grocery stores, is treated as an exotic specialty. The corms that make regrowth possible are discarded without a second thought by virtually every American who handles them. Research confirms water chestnuts contain floritin, a flavonoid with documented antimicrobial and antifungal effects. Studies also confirm significant heat-stable resistant starch that survives cooking, making water chestnuts one of the rare vegetables that retains fiber benefits even in canned, cooked form. Research documents notable antioxidant activity comparable to several more celebrated superfoods. Fresh water chestnuts can contain corms at the base. Plant a fresh corm in a container filled with several inches of muddy soil and 2 to 3 inches of standing water. A warm, sunny location is essential. Corms multiply underground through the growing season. Harvest in fall when foliage dies back and replant a portion of the new corms to continue the cycle. Water chestnut plants require standing water, which can become a mosquito breeding environment. Change standing water regularly or add a small aerator to prevent stagnation during the growing season. 3,000 years of kitchen knowledge, and most Americans throw this away with the takeout container without a second thought. Number 18. Hot pepper seeds. Archaeological evidence from the Tehuacan Valley in Mexico places pepper domestication at approximately 6000 BCE, making it among the oldest cultivated plants in the Americas. The Aztec name chili entered the Spanish language and eventually English. Pre-Columbian Mesoamerican cultures maintained living pepper collections, selected seeds from the most productive plants saved across hundreds of generations. The hybrid pepper variety system that dominates American agriculture today produces plants whose seeds either won't germinate reliably or produce inferior offspring. This was not an accident. Hybrid seed dependency is a business model. It replaced thousands of years of self-sufficient seed saving with an annual purchase requirement. Capsaicin, the compound responsible for heating peppers, has one of the most documented medicinal profiles of any food compound. Research confirms topical applications reduce certain types of chronic pain through substance P depletion. Studies also document antimicrobial, metabolism boosting, and potential anti-tumor properties currently in active research. Save seeds from any non-hybrid fresh pepper. Look for heirloom varieties specifically. Allow seeds to dry on a paper towel for 1 week. Store in a paper envelope in a cool, dry location. Plant and seed starting mix, keeping warm 70 to 85 degrees is ideal. Germination takes 10 to 21 days. The plant you grow produces seeds for next year and every year after. Hot pepper seeds, and especially the white pith, contain concentrated capsaicin that can cause skin and eye irritation during handling. Always wash hands thoroughly after handling cut peppers. Capsaicin has well-documented interactions with certain blood pressure and ACE inhibitor medications at supplemental doses. 6,000 years of self-sufficient seed saving, replaced in one generation by a system that requires you to buy seeds annually. That replacement didn't happen by accident. Number 19. Lemon and lime seeds. Citrus cultivation traces to ancient China and northeastern India, with documentary evidence from Chinese agricultural texts dating to 2700 BC. Lemons specifically were cultivated in the Arab world by approximately 700 CE and carried into Europe by Arab traders, eventually reaching the Americas with Spanish colonizers in the 1400s. Arab physicians of the medieval period documented citrus in more than 200 medicinal applications. The citrus industry in Florida and California created one of the most effective proprietary plant systems in American agriculture. Commercial citrus trees are grafted, which means the fruit you grow from seed takes longer to produce and may differ from the parent. The industry used this fact to discourage home growing entirely, even though seed-grown citrus trees are fully viable, vigorous, and productive. Research confirms citrus peel contains D-limonene, a compound with documented antifungal, antibacterial, and potential cancer-preventive properties under active research. Vitamin C concentration in homegrown citrus is comparable to commercial fruit, and studies confirm flavonoids in the pith, the white layer most people discard, include hesperidin, documented for cardiovascular benefit. Plant fresh lemon or lime seeds not dried half an inch deep in moist potting. Mix immediately after removing them from the fruit. Keep warm and moist. Germination takes 2 to 3 weeks. Grow in containers and bring indoors in winter in colder climates. Grafted commercial trees bear fruit in 2 to 3 years. Seed-grown trees take 5 to 7 but produce indefinitely and live for decades. Arab physicians cataloged 200 medicinal applications for citrus, while Europe was still debating whether the fruit was safe to eat. That gap in knowledge crossed an ocean and landed in your fruit bowl. Number 20. Comfrey root. Comfrey, called knit bone by medieval English healers and symphoton by the ancient Greeks from a root meaning to unite, has one of the longest and most dramatic medicinal histories of any plant on this list. Greek physician Dioscorides documented it in 50 CE for wound healing and bone repair. Medieval European herbalists used it as a primary treatment for fractures, sprains, and internal bleeding. It was in every household medicine garden from Britain to the Byzantine Empire for over 1,000 years. In the 1970s and 1980s, studies in rats showed that high doses of pyrrolizidine alkaloids compounds found in comfrey leaves and roots caused liver damage. The FDA issued cautions. The plant's internal use was broadly discouraged. What the cautions frequently omitted, the rat studies used doses equivalent to a human consuming comfrey as their primary food source for months. External, topical use was never implicated in the same research. The knowledge that made comfrey the most widely used wound plant in European history was largely abandoned over a dosing study that was never representative of traditional use. Multiple peer-reviewed studies, including a systematic review published in Phytotherapy Research, confirm comfrey root extract accelerates wound healing, reduces bruising and swelling, and provides demonstrable pain relief in soft tissue injury and osteoarthritis when applied topically. Research documents allantoin, the primary active compound, promotes cell proliferation in wound tissue, a mechanism that directly explains why traditional healers called it knit bone 2,000 years before molecular biology existed. Comfrey grows from root cuttings. Even a small fragment of root will sprout. Plant any piece of root 3 to 4 inches deep in rich soil in a partially shaded location. The plant establishes quickly and is notoriously difficult to remove once planted. Harvest outer leaves to make a traditional topical infusion. Simmer leaves in water, allow to cool, strain, and apply to bruises, sprains, or slow-healing skin wounds with a clean cloth. Never take internally. Comfrey must not be taken internally in any form: tea, tincture, or supplement. Pyrrolizidine alkaloids are hepatotoxic with documented cumulative liver damage from internal use. The FDA prohibition on internal comfort products is well-founded. External topical use on unbroken skin has an entirely different and well-documented safety profile, but this distinction must be understood clearly before use. Ancient Greek physicians, medieval healers, and peer-reviewed 21st century research all arrived at the same conclusion. The only period in history that forgot this plant was the last 40 years. Every plant on this list was known, not suspected, not theorized. Known by farmers, healers, grandmothers, and civilizations that couldn't afford to be wrong about what kept them alive. The knowledge didn't disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because the systems that replaced it needed you to believe it was gone. Supermarkets need buyers. Pharmaceutical companies need patients. Seed companies need annual customers. A person who grows food from scraps, treats minor ailments with plants, and saves seeds for next year, that person is economically inconvenient in ways that have nothing to do with science. What you watch today is not a gardening video. It is a record of what your great-grandparents knew that someone decided you didn't need to. Your challenge starting today. The next time you cut a green onion, trim celery, or scoop seeds from a pepper, don't throw it away. Put it in water. See what happens. That one act repeated is how this knowledge survived for thousands of years. It survives by being practiced, not just remembered. If this video changed how you see what's sitting in your kitchen right now, hit like. It takes 1 second, and it tells the channel that this kind of content is worth making more of. Tell me in the comments, which scrap are you trying first, the one that surprised you most, or the one that felt most practical? I read every single comment. And if you believe this knowledge deserves to survive, subscribe. Not as a favor to the channel, as an act of remembering what the world told you to forget. The most dangerous thing a person can grow is their own food. Someone somewhere decided that a long time ago. Plant something anyway.